everybody. Welcome back to With Bowl and Spoon, a podcast about food, community, and how our personal relationships with food grow and evolve over time. I like to call that our personal food evolution. I am your host, Shelly Danko Day. I am here with my guest, Sarah. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do?
Hi, Shelly. Thanks for having me. I am Sarah Kaminski. I am the founder of Ever Granola. We are a Pittsburgh-based company that crafts small batch, gluten-free vegan granola, sweetened only with pure Pennsylvania maple syrup.
That's a long list of qualifiers for that.
I think, we're eternally dialing in our elevator pitch. Maybe I need to dial mine in.
No, it's good. I mean, but you're like everything. It's great. So you're gluten-free, dairy-free.
Yes.
What were the other ones?
And we sweeten only with pure Pennsylvania maple syrup, which keeps our products obviously free of refined sugar, but it also keeps our grams of sugar per serving really low. If you look at most granolas on the market, they're packing in like 16 to 20 grams of sugar per serving. So you might as well just, pick up a Snickers bar. Ours carry anywhere from 3 to 5 grams of sugar per serving. And then you also have the mineral content and, benefits of the maple syrup, while also supporting a Pennsylvania farmer in North Central PA.
Yeah, I love the idea that, because not all sugars are created equal. Yeah. So your Snickers is going to have high fructose corn syrup. Then you get your regular sugar, which is just sugar. And then you get maple syrup, which has the minerals that you mentioned. I love that about maple syrup. So yes. It's just so much better when you go into restaurants and they give you that syrup that's not maple. Why?
I know. And then you have to request, can I please have pure maple syrup with my pancakes? And then they'll upcharge you for it.
Or they don't even have it.
Right. It's not even an option.
Bring your own. I've been known to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how did you get into the granola business?
So this was actually a pandemic pivot. I was doing health coaching and that was going great until the pandemic hit in 2020. And my service-based business was hit really hard. People were not investing in health coaching. And I can personally say, I think we all sort of froze on spending. It was a very uncertain time. It's we're just going to kind of get down to the bare bones here and buy the things that we need. And we're going to let go of any wants or extras. And health coaching, unfortunately, was just one of those things. So I kind of scrambled that spring, as we all did. And that summer I looked at my husband and said, I'm trying to figure out what's my pivot going to be here. Because at that point, we didn't know how long, right, is this going to take to get back to quote unquote normal.
Yeah, I think they were saying 6 weeks and people were like, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'll never forget my oldest son was in kindergarten and they sent him home with a folder and said, they're going to be home for 2 weeks. And at the time we're like, 2 weeks?
Yeah, that was a weird time.
It was a totally weird time. So very uncertain, but needed to figure out what my move was going to be. And so that summer I looked at my husband, Chris, and said, what about that original granola recipe? It was one of hundreds that I developed to support my health coaching clients. It just felt like a good, nourishing, easy, done for you meal or snack food, especially during that time when we just needed nourishing and quick and easy, right? And so we ran some numbers. It made sense. And so I got to work with ingredient sourcing and contacting PA Department of Agriculture and, checking all the boxes with, what we were going to need in terms of, inspections. And I started in my 3-rack home oven that fall under the cottage food law. And at the time, I had no business plan. I just thought, we're going to put this out there. We owned, at the time, a retail store in Regent Square. My husband had co-founded Three Rivers Outdoor Company. So we thought, all right, we'll put it in the store. We'll sell it online. And we'll just sort of see where this goes. And if it helps to fill the gap. Well, it turns out that nobody was doing a specialty granola in Pittsburgh. People were really excited about it. And we had started producing and sharing right before Thanksgiving of 2020. And by the end of 2020, had 10 wholesale partners with local retailers. People were really excited to bring it in and offer it among their assortment. And I thought, all right, I think we have something maybe bigger than I thought here. We quickly moved into a commercial kitchen space late February, so about 3 months in, and have continued to grow from there.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that story. So you mentioned you had developed the recipe prior to this whole thing happening because you were a health coach. So talk about how'd you get into that?
So my formal education is in education. So I am a master's degree in education. I taught first and second grade for 7 years. I loved teaching, but when our first son was born, I really struggled with a 40-plus hour week with a commute and never seeing him, and thought, wow, if we're going to have another child, we're going to grow our family, this isn't the schedule for me. So I was sort of trying to figure out how can I create something that will generate income, replace my teaching income, and give me a little bit more flexibility to be a more present mom. And health coaching was that thing. So in my mid-20s, sometime when I was teaching, I started to really learn about our food system. My eyes opened up to where our food comes from, and being victim, as I'm sure most of us were in the 90s, to low-fat diet culture. My eyes were really opened wide to, wow, this is what our food system looks like. And that's what really inspired and drove me to want to teach others. So
was there a big thing that you were that you fell victim to, that you were affected by, that caused that change?
Not personally at that time. It was more just, wow, everything on the shelf is... I really just learned how to read ingredient labels. I learned how important it is to understand the source of our food. There's a major disconnect between where our food is produced and grown and where and how it lands on our table. And all of that was just really eye-opening for me as somebody who grew up eating the standard American diet, and that's just how I ate, and that's what I thought was normal, until you realize it's not. There's just a major disconnect, and it's detrimental to our health. If you look at, all of the rates of heart disease and cancer and type 2 diabetes and all of these preventable lifestyle diseases, they all really just come back to its diet and its lifestyle. And if we can all get regrounded and in our roots in that way, all of that stuff becomes better. It starts to go away. And that's what inspired me to want to teach.
It's a bonkers system out there. Yeah, I have my master's in food studies. So yeah, I spent 2 years looking at the ugly of our food system. It's really crazy.
It is. It's scary.
It is, yeah. And then all the vilifying certain foods, eggs are bad, and then eggs are good, and then just the whites, and then no, you could eat the yolk. There's lots of and that's also, I think, a lot of capitalism that has gotten in there and done the messaging and created these frenzies.
For sure. And I think, through all of my learnings and all of my readings, it was, how do I personally incorporate more plant foods into my diet, and just really colorful, diverse, nutrient-dense foods into my diet, and then teaching others how to do that too. And get away from that diet culture where it's this is bad and that's bad and it's bad. It's let's give everybody permission to let go of all of that, and instead just focus on how can I just eat more plants? Because when you start to focus on adding all of that in, adding more of the good in, there's just not as much room for all of the quote unquote bad. That's what sort of inspired me to start. How do I teach people to incorporate more plant foods into their diet?
I feel like the supplement industry is all about, you can eat all the crap and then just take this pill or take this powder. That, the supplement industry is what allows all those other, oh, it's such a crazy thing. Anyway, I'll edit that.
Yeah. we could go on a soapbox.
Absolutely. So, okay, so where'd you grow up?
Here in Pittsburgh, born and raised in Pittsburgh. My mom actually still lives in the house I grew up in.
What part of Pittsburgh?
I grew up in Fox Chapel area.
Okay.
So born and raised here, went and studied education at West Virginia University. Made some of my great, wonderful friends, truly in high school and in college. I'm still friends with today, which is amazing. And moved to Colorado for a short window of time after graduating WVU. That's where I met my now husband, who coincidentally is also from Pittsburgh, which is a funny story of fate. But circled back here to Pittsburgh, and we lived in Aspinwall, we lived in Shaler, and now we live North Wexford area.
What brought you back to Pittsburgh?
A bad relationship, truly. I just sort of ended up like, I just need to go home and reorganize my life.
But you had met your husband out there?
Well, we didn't date when we lived there.
Oh, okay.
But that's where we met.
And that wasn't the bad relationship?
No, that wasn't why.
So you met out there, had a friendship, and then you moved back here. He moved back here too?
I went back several times over the course of that next year and a half to visit. And that's actually where we sort of became more than friends, I guess. And then, yes, I was already living back here. He ended up taking a job in Somerset, and we ended up staying. And now we're raising our 3 kids here. So it's cool to be back in Pittsburgh because I feel like there's a really great entrepreneurial community in Pittsburgh. The food community in Pittsburgh specifically is very tight-knit and uplifting. I feel like I've learned so much from other food makers, creators, bakers in the city of Pittsburgh, and I feel really grateful to have that sense of community here, especially coming out of the coaching world where it was like every question that you had, it was like, sure, yeah, buy my course, all the answers are there, and you're like, really? You won't just tell me where you ordered your packaging? So that's been really refreshing. It's like we're all just here to lift one another up, see each other succeed. And, I partner with a lot of local purveyors. We work with Steel City Soap Company. We work with Harvest Moon Coffee and Chocolates. We work with Paul Family Farms for our pure Pennsylvania maple syrup. And then, throughout the year for our seasonal flavors, we try to come up with as many unique partnerships as we can, incorporating fresh herbs, locally roasted coffee, espresso, things like that.
That's great. Where do you connect with other businesses?
When I first started, I was doing as many sort of in-person events as I could just to get myself and the brand out there. And so you just meet a lot of...
We do like farmers markets or trade show. What kind of events?
Yeah, more things locally. So like night markets. I was doing like the Squirrel Hill night markets. I was doing Veg Fest. I was doing the farmers market at Block Northway. All of the I Made It market events. I'm trying to think in that first year, but really just tried to, when you say like hit the ground running, like literally just like feet to the pavement, like let me just get this product out to as many people. I wanted people to taste it because, when somebody tastes it, it's like, all right, then I've captured them. And I think too, there's something to be said by like making a connection again, like we were saying, like who produced this food for me, Mm-hmm. And like, wow, it's like a real human with like a real team of incredible women behind her, and she has a family. And so I think, people make connections with people, not necessarily products.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the in-person things, and that was really a challenge, I guess, when you first started because it was still pandemic.
Yeah.
And we didn't get the vaccine until Thanksgiving that year, and that was only some people, and most people got it in the winter.
I don't know. I was somebody that just threw a mask on and got out there. And I understand that like not everybody was comfortable doing that. But I was, and I was determined. So I got out there, and I think something else I really focused on in that first year to 2 was product visibility in as many pockets of Pittsburgh as I could. So, how can I get Best Ever Granola in, every pocket of Pittsburgh, so that, you're out and about and you're like, oh, there that is again. There it is again. There it is again. And then social media was another big driver too, and continues to be, of just organic, growth too. And that's another way that I have met a lot of food producers. I actually, a lot of them are now dear friends. Like Lauren from Bake True North, she and we go to yoga together on Mondays, and we walk often, and we share, resources and ideas and what's working and what's not working. My friend Corey from Core Eats, she does grain-free baking mixes. She and I have become friends. And we became friends because I cold messaged her on Instagram and said, your packaging is beautiful. Where did you get it? So, that I think is just testament to, how open and kind and uplifting the food. She
didn't make you buy her program.
No, she didn't make you say like, well, you can buy a bag of pancake mix and I'll tell you.
Yeah, I've heard that over and over, that the food community is just so embracing and forthcoming when it comes to sharing information, and that's really nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
It is. Yeah, we attended our first trade show. You asked about trade shows. We attended the Fancy Food Show earlier this year. And it was a grant-funded opportunity for us.
Where was that?
In New York City. So it's
Big.
the biggest international trade show in the U.S. I didn't feel like we were really ready, but it was a grant-funded opportunity. So I said, all right, let's just go for it. It's a big time commitment, and it's a monetary commitment to, go up there and spend a long weekend in New York City. I mean, just to park costs you $300 for the weekend.
Oh my God.
So it was fun. I go into everything as like a learning opportunity, and it certainly was that. I don't know if it's going to have been a great ROI necessarily for us, but it was an incredible learning opportunity. And the group of people that went up we're all still connected. And
you guys had like a cohort of people that went from Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Well, they were all Pennsylvania-based businesses.
Gotcha.
So now we have this group of people that, we meet quarterly for lunch and,
nice.
Just share ideas, and this is what's working and this is what's not. And so all of that is really helpful to just helping to learn and grow and do better, be better.
Yeah. So you took a bunch of product with you?
Yes. Yep.
Did you sell out?
So you don't sell product there.
Oh, shoot.
It's really just an opportunity to connect with grocers. So grocery buyers, distributors, ingredient purveyors, packaging purveyors. We actually did make a new connection. We did make a lot of new connections there. But it was a big trip, and it was a big investment, even with like the booth being a grant funded opportunity.
And no opportunity to actually sell your product immediately. So you got no income from the weekend, but have you had subsequent sales from it?
Yes.
Oh, good. That's good. It was successful.
Has the trip paid for itself yet? No.
Oh.
So, I mean, again, I think we just maybe weren't necessarily ready. And I think not all, if you look at like an ROI, it does not always like the return on investment isn't always necessarily in dollars. It's in connections. It's in learnings. It's in, like I said, cost savings on things like packaging, right? Because I met a new packaging purveyor. So it comes across in ways like that aren't necessarily like directly related to your bottom line. So I think being open-minded and looking at everything in that way is important.
Right. But you also have to think like that was a national thing because you're in New York. So you're talking to people around the country, I'm guessing.
Yes.
We don't have a big trade show like that though. We have a lot of food businesses. We should have one like that.
Yeah, we should. It would be fun too.
Yeah.
We should organize it.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
I realized too, so many small businesses, all small businesses, but food businesses especially, it's like we still have feet in production, and we're like driving sales, and we're customer service, and we're wearing all of these hats. I'm not a one-woman show. I have an incredible team that truly I wouldn't be able to do what we do without my team. I was a one-woman show for a really long time. When we moved out of my home kitchen into the commercial kitchen, it was myself and my friend Kim and my husband. We rented a shared commercial kitchen space in Squirrel Hill. We had the shop in Regent Square at the time. So he would like come over and help in the morning for a couple of hours and then be like, all right, I gotta go. I mean, it was really just like scrappy. My friend Kim and I like, all right, let's see how we can get this done. And, you know, as we continued to grow, it just became more and more clear that we can't just wing it like this. We have to have a team of people that are coming in, and there has to be systems. And so, you know, it was all just learning, and I'm still truly learning every day. We have we have good systems and procedures now in place, but it's been 5 years, you know, and we're constantly learning how to do things better, learning how to be more efficient. You know, all the time we're looking at each other like, wow, it only took us 3 years to figure that one out. Only took us 5 years to figure that one out. But I think that's how you learn and grow, and being willing to make mistakes and seeing where you can be more efficient and do things better.
Yeah, and connecting with other people that do similar things or have had, you know, experiences. It's definitely helpful, but yeah, when you realize something, you're like, oh, duh.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Could have been making my life so much easier.
We've been really living under a rock here for a while. Yeah, we have good systems in place, but are always looking for ways to do better.
Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about your process? Like, what does it entail to get a bag of this amazing, delicious granola to people?
So everything we do is small batch. That's another thing that really sets us apart. I think that...
And drives you crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a labor of love for sure. And again, we're always looking for ways, we're always figuring out ways to be more efficient in every step of the process. But everything that we do is gluten-free. So we use organic gluten-free rolled oats, and then just a variety of raw nuts and seeds, organic thick toasted coconut, and organic coconut oil, pure Pennsylvania maple syrup. And that's sort of the baseline of all of our raw ingredients. So everything sort of gets lined up in, you know, across all of our countertops and bowls. Everything is hand tossed, hand spread onto... With actual hands.
No big giant spoons, but hands.
No big mixers.
All right.
No. That's actually something that we're looking into for 2026 is like, how do we streamline that process? Certainly for time efficiency, but for product consistency, because when you're doing everything manually, it's not going to be exactly the same every single time. So, you know, we're looking at different avenues for things to make that piece, that step, I guess, of the process less manual. What's tricky about that is like looking at like you think of a standard large mixer with like the big paddle in it. We have these big coconut chips, and, you know, you have these ingredients that you don't want to get all crushed and beat up, you know, because you figure every step of the process is, you know, an opportunity for that coconut chip to get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, and then it becomes a powder. Yeah, you don't want that. Sure.
Right, exactly. So one of the connections actually that I made at the Fancy Food Show is a mentor who had a granola company for 10 years and has been absolutely incredible in just offering her time and answering 8 million questions, the 8 million questions that I have. And so she shared a lot of incredible resources and continues to about ways that we can streamline that process. But
that's really wild. How did you meet another granola maker? Did she just come over and... She
literally was like, oh, you're a granola company. I sold my granola company that I had for 10 years. She's like, I'll taste it and I'll tell you if it's actually really good. Our product is best ever granola. We realize it's a bold statement, right? So she's like, I'm going to decide for myself. And she literally sat down in our booth and she's like, yeah, it's the best ever. She's like, I'll give it to you. And so she was sitting down because it's a trade show. You're walking and walking and walking. But I don't know, we just got to talking and I said, what do you mean you sold your company? Tell me, I would love to learn more about selling your company. I don't know what my vision necessarily is for this company, you know, 5 years, 10 years down the road, but you just want to learn what all of the possibilities might look like, right? And so she shared with me, and it was like lots of numbers and percentages. And I was like, can I schedule a phone call with you? Would you be open to that? So, I could take notes, because I wasn't doing that in a booth in New York City. And she said, absolutely. So, we talk every 6 weeks or so. And she's been an incredible resource.
That's great.
Yeah.
And she's really nice when people are so forthcoming. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's also a mom. And it's like, I feel like I'm in a season of my life where I have 3 young kids. So, I have this business, which is really important to me.
Say.
Yeah. there's a truck
Lots
on the
of
table.
toys everywhere.
But I'm in a season of life where I have 3 young kids, and, I have to ground myself often, when I get into, comparing myself to where others are and where the business is to where other people's businesses are. You start to get in that comparison game, and I have to reground myself and say, like, Sarah, what is it that you really want? And what inspired me, 10 years ago to start a business in the first place was to have flexibility and to be available to my kids. And so that means that, like, all of our production is within school hours. And, like, after that, that's just all that's going to get done, right? That doesn't mean that I'm not logging onto my computer in the evening sometimes and, like, doing things that need to get done. But in terms of, like, my work day, it's a lot shorter than a lot of people's, because I just have this shorter window of time, and I'm just honoring that season of life.
Well, it's also not like you're not thinking about it all the time.
Right.
When you have a business, you're always like, oh, did I forget to order that? Or, oh, I'm going to have to think about that next week. Or, oh, this is a problem. And yeah, it's, as an entrepreneur, it's never out of your mind. So don't give yourself a hard time about having a short work day.
Right.
You do not.
Well, and I think truly it's like, I don't know, did I really, like, who determined what the, like, quote unquote full work day was? Like, some corporate dude, like, back in the 50s decided that,
I mean, it used to be a lot worse before unions and,
Right. So, like, we can redefine that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And create, businesses that, work for families. Company culture is really important to me. Just like I've created a business that, work fits around my life, I can create that for, the team and for people that work here. I understand that, people have things that are more important than Best Ever Granola. Best Ever Granola is not going to be the most important thing. And I think when you just say that, and we can all just openly admit that, like, sure, I care about this company and I care about the process and I care about, the quality of everything that we're creating, putting out into the world, and top-notch, customer service, and we can check all these boxes. At the end of the day, it's like whoever's at home is more important. And I think that just having that as, like, president, people are comfortable keeping open lines of communication. And I think they just show up better. We're all just able to show up as we are and do our very best work. And then we can go home and show up for the people that are really important to us there.
It sounds to me like you treat your team members like humans.
Yeah.
Which is not very common in the corporate world, in the, capitalist world. But yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. It's important for this to be a safe place. It's like, come as you are. It's oftentimes, one of us will just come in like, oh God, it's been a morning, and just open up and, like, I just need to have a moment, and we can all just hold space.
Aww.
And be like, all right, now this is where this is how we can move forward. I don't know. I think, like, when you appreciate people, they appreciate you. It's funny how that works, right? And not just me necessarily, but, the company and the product and the process. And
yeah, I'm sure it all shows there, for sure.
Totally. And I think that is evident, like, in that energy, I think, is put out, like, in the products that we produce. That positive energy, for sure.
Well, it is delicious product, so. What was food like growing up?
I grew up eating the standard American diet. Like, I remember we ate lots of fresh fruits and veggies. But we also ate TV dinners. I remember eating, like, Stouffer mac and cheese and those, like, cinnamon apples. That was, like, my mom's Easy Button, like my box mac and cheese Easy Button, like that was her Easy Button mom dinner, which was great.
Things were so thin, those TV dinner trays, and then that cellophane that you poked holes in, microwaved, or put it in the oven.
She put them in the oven
with the plastic on it. Yeah, that was kind of. Yeah, I don't know how that actually happened.
I mean, we're still here, so.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't know. We had we had ravioli, we had tacos, we had, creamy pasta with peas, we had roasts, stew, and my mom, we didn't eat out a lot. She did cook a lot at home, but there wasn't anything. I mean, the way that I eat now and the way that I read ingredient labels now, I think truly, to be fair, it's just a different world than it was in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. So there wasn't any one thing that happened with your, the way you were eating? Was it just was it a friend that maybe said something, or did you just have an epiphany one day, oh wait,
in my mid-20s I watched Food Inc.
Oh yeah.
And that was the needle mover for me. I was like, WTF. I have been lied to. It was sort of just this food transparency moment for me that sent me down this rabbit hole of oh my gosh, I just have to learn as much as I can about our food system. And so I became very familiar with the work of Michael Pollan, Alice Waters, the Farm to Table movement. I actually wrote my graduate thesis on farm to school programs because I was just so driven and inspired by this idea that we had completely lost the connection between our food and the food to table. There was just no connection. Everything was just about convenience and about how fast it can be. This idea of just adopting a more slow food movement. So even though I did cook a lot, even in college and stuff, I would cook, but I would think a lean cuisine is a good choice. And I'll cook some vegetables on the side. Or
pasta and you throw some vegetables in, or yeah.
Right.
Just simple, basic, but lean cuisine is different, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's not, I would never eat a lean cuisine now or buy anything like that now. But I don't know. It's you live and you learn, right? And
yeah,
now I know better. And what's wild is that once you sort of shift your palate, you take a bite of something. I remember those box scallop potatoes. Do you remember those? I loved those growing up. They were one of my favorite things. And I remember my grandmother would make them, and she always had this really pretty casserole dish, and they would get that brown on top and be so delicious. I hadn't cooked those in years and years and years, and they were on a spread, and this is more recently in the last 10 years. And I'm oh my gosh, it's those scallop potatoes. And you take one bite and you're is this even food? What is this?
It's a little, I'm trying to remember it now. It had a little bit of a paste kind of flavor to it that was just maybe it was a little more starchy than regular potatoes to kind of keep it together. I don't know.
Yeah, it just wasn't what I remembered it to be.
Oh, okay. Because sometimes the nostalgia of flavors kind of brings it back, and you're it's not food, but I remember and I have good memories of this thing.
Yeah.
No?
That wasn't my experience. So it's moments like that I remember eating rice-a-roni and loving boxed rice-a-roni. I just couldn't. I mean, we eat a lot of rice, and we'll season it in different ways, but I think once you start to get away from, artificial colors and flavors and preservatives, your palate really shifts. And same with, sugars, artificial sweeteners, or things that you're even just loaded with sugar. You take a bite of it and you're gosh, that's so sweet, because I think your palate becomes hyper attuned.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that makes me crazy about the big trend in people pointing out the amount of sugar in a carrot or in, a beet. Yes, it has sugar, but it's different. There's so many other places you can cut out sugar, and this is not the place to cut it out. Eat your carrots, yes. Eat your beets. You need those. Yeah, there's still there's some new sort of fads coming in with everything has protein in it now.
That is the big fad now, and that's truly a big question that we got at the fancy food show from grocery buyers was if we were going to be, coming out with a high protein blend. And people want to see like 15 to 20 grams of protein in a serving.
Yeah,
and
that's in a day's worth of protein.
So, I mean, a day's worth of protein is probably closer to like 50 to 100 grams of protein depending on.
Okay, all right.
So even, one serving of our granola would give you 5 grams of protein. So to put that into perspective of just like how much, and it's all plant-based, that's just from nuts and seeds and, the oats, carry protein. So I think that we forget that, everything adds up over the course of a day, I think is what you're saying, right? Like over the course of a day, even if you're eating no animal protein at all or incorporating little bits here and there, it's all adding up over the course of your day to be what your body needs.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is such a thing as too much protein. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're making Starbucks coffees with protein in them now. It's too much.
Yeah, it's, I think, going overboard, but that's just the current fad, you know? But so is like Ozempic and, drugs that are, I guess, they're appetite suppressants, I think, essentially, right?
Yeah, I don't know how those work. I was talking about that with my husband the other day, and I have a friend who's on it, and I'm like, but I didn't know how expensive it was. So I recently found that out, and I'm like, oh my God, do you have to be on that all the time, or once you lose the weight, can you go off it? Like, I don't know how that works, and it's so weird.
I think that's the tricky thing. And I think the tricky thing is, one, we don't know enough about it, right? And so all of the people now that are on it, sure, do we know it's effective? Yes. But like, what are the long-term effects, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we don't have enough, there hasn't been enough time to do the adequate research to back up, like, what are the long-term effects of this? Because I think what happens is, like, sure, as an appetite suppressant, you're not eating and you're eating fewer calories, but then you have a nutrient deficit, I'm sure, in many areas. And over the course
I don't know, it happens so quickly too. Right. I don't know how it works or anything about it, but it just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well, it's definitely like a magic pill situation that I think a lot of people have hoped for. And I don't know, I'm definitely a foodie. I'm somebody that thinks about food all the time. I think the buzzword that goes along with those drugs is like, the food noise and how it, numbs down or turns off the food noise. My whole life I went through waves with, diet culture and what I should or shouldn't eat, or feeling bad or beating myself up, or, oh, I was really bad today, that type of mindset around food. But I don't know that
saying a food is good or bad, and vilifying certain foods. It's terrible.
It is bad. And I think like with my children is where I've realized, how careful I have to be with my language. I try not even to use the words healthy or unhealthy. I just say, you can have that, but I want you to just pay attention to how your body feels. Like, I want to teach them to be intuitive about their body. We just had Halloween, and my oldest, I remember like 3 years ago, did a major Halloween binge, like while he was trick-or-treating, like was just gorging candy the whole trick-or-treat. And so he came back and was so sick to his stomach and was, oh, Bob, I don't feel good. And I said, how many pieces of candy did you eat when you were out there? He's like, oh, I don't know. I mean, everything was just so good. But that's all it took for him to recognize that, like, okay, maybe 15 pieces of candy is too much, It's like, those are the lessons that I want to teach them, and to just sort of like lean in to how their bodies feel. And I think like the younger they are, I can say to my 11-year-old now, how does your body feel? With my littler kids, it's like, your belly will hurt. I want you to pay attention, because if you eat too much of that, your belly will hurt. And just helping them to lean into that.
Yeah.
But it's a process.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I as a parent, I'm sure you're constantly worried about, am I doing right, doing wrong?
Yeah, I mean,
everybody has that experience, yeah.
I say to my oldest one all the time, like, we'll have a moment of through something, and, we'll have to like, it was one of us has to go cool down, because a conversation gets heated or something gets blown out of proportion or something. We have a disagreement over something. And when we kind of come back to reconvene, it's like, I have to remind him that, like, this is the first time I've ever been a mom to an 11-year-old. I haven't done this before.
I'm new here.
Yes, totally. And I think that, like, that helps, you know, them to put into perspective, like, it's their first time being 11. It's my first time being a mom to an 11-year-old. This is my first time being 43. I'm just trying to figure it out. Okay? Like, we're all just doing the best that we can.
Yeah.
And I think just, like, you know, reminding them that, like, hey, I'm your mom, but I'm not, doesn't make me any superior. Like, I'm just showing up, and we're all just doing the best that we can.
I love that so much. That's awesome. Well, so what is next for Best Ever Granola?
So we're actually launching a new product outside of granola.
What?
Here soon, and this is sort of like a very test market thing, but we just decided we're going to put it out there. So I realized in my own snacking sometime this summer, I was eating roasted nuts in the car, and I was like, I don't think that, like, I've ever seen a roasted nut in the grocery that you can just buy that's not roasted in seed oils. Like, everything's roasted in canola oil or vegetable oil, soybean oil, something that, like, takes this really healthy, nutrient-dense food, like a raw nut, and then just, like, toasts it in a bunch of inflammatory oils. And I was like, I wonder. So I go to a local Whole Foods, and I, like, scour the shelves. I'm reading all the ingredient labels, and sure enough, there's not one to be found. And I'm like, all right, well, like, if it's not here, like, it may exist, right? But, like, if Whole Foods doesn't have it on the shelf, then, like, we maybe need to work on this. So we're going to do a pretty limited run. We didn't do a full-blown packaging design for this yet, because I want to just sort of test the market and see if it's something people really want. Like, maybe I'm the only one that wants it. So we will have these out, like, early. It's going to end up being, like, mid-November. They'll be available. But we're going to do 3 different varieties. They're roasted in just a little bit of organic cold-pressed coconut oil. It's unrefined, a little bit of maple syrup, and then we'll do a classic salted, a sesame, and a cinnamon, and they're incredible.
What kind of nuts are they?
We're just whole roasted almonds.
Almonds, okay.
Yeah, so we're just going to start there and see if it's something that people want. And maybe, who knows, maybe it's just me. But we have the capacity to do it here, so we're just going to put them out there and see what the feedback is from the people.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I
think that, like, it's such a great on-the-go, nourishing, and, like I said, like, we have this, like, nutrient-dense food that Mother Nature makes that we just, like, toss in all of this stuff that our body, it's like this counteractive, I'm sure, you know, on the inside of, like, all these inflammatory oils and stuff that our body's like, what the heck, man? Like, I just want to be able to absorb these nutrients, but now I have to fight off all this inflammation.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just on a mission here, truly, to help make it easy for people to just incorporate more whole foods into their diet.
So they don't have to do all this food math that you and I do naturally that just makes us crazy.
Right.
Why don't you tell people where they can find you? Where can we find your product?
So we're partnered with just over 100 retailers in 12 states. Our whole list of up-to-date retail partners is always on our website. So you can find us there at bestevergranola.com. It's all sorted if you're in the Pittsburgh area or regionally by neighborhood. So you can find a retail partner closest to you that carries our products. Locally here in Pittsburgh, all of the 7 Market District locations carry Best Ever Granola as well. And then find us on social at Best Ever Granola.
Cool. So is there anything that you are looking for, that you need for your business, for, you know, product? Are you looking to get into a particular company to sell your product?
I'm always making new connections. I mean, I think that people are only successful as entrepreneurs because of, brave moves.
The hustle. Yeah.
Yes. And I think like doing things that make you feel uncomfortable and just being okay with that. So I'm always making new connections. But we also, get a lot of referrals. So, you come to me and say like, hey, I live in this area and I would love to see your product here. If you are one of those people that are like, wow, I really would like to see Best Ever Granola in my city or my town, this would be a great retail partner, send us a message. I'm always all ears. I'm the one that answers all of our email inbox and all of our DMs on Instagram and Facebook. So if you have any ideas there and want to see Best Ever Granola closer to you, send us a message. And yeah, again, I'm always just open to learning and growing. So let's keep lifting each other up.
Cool. Looking forward to the snack nuts.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone knows that food is cool. No secret. Eat that food with a bowl and spoon. Everyone knows that food is cool. No secret. Eat that food with a bowl and spoon.
With Bowl and Spoon is written, produced and hosted by Shelley Danko Day. Original theme song was written and performed by Paul LeBreeze and friends. You can listen to With Bowl and Spoon wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, review and share. Follow us and send us questions or messages on Facebook and Instagram at With Bowl and Spoon. Thanks for listening.